This is our first meeting of 2024. Today is January 8th. My name is Joan Wadiska. I'm the chair of the College Partnership Laboratory School Standing Committee, and welcome to our meeting. I call us to order. I will note that I've approved remote participation of Mr. John Bailey under the board's bylaws, section 2.23708(3)B. The Code of Virginia. Such participation is allowed because his principal residence is more than 60 miles from the meeting location identified in our public meeting notice. Dr. Armstrong, would you call the roll of the members of the standing committee, please?
Certainly. Mr. Bailey? Here. Mr. Hanson?
Here.
Dr. Moran?
Present.
Mr. Rothman? And Chair Wadiska?
Present. At this time, I would invite everyone to please join me in a moment of silence, and then by which we will also follow with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. If you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the approval of the agenda. The members of the standing committee were provided with an agenda in advance of this meeting. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented today?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved as amended. We'll now move to the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented to the standing committee?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The same. The motion unanimously passes and the minutes of the meeting are approved. At this time, we'll move to public comment on agenda items. The standing committee accepts public comment on all matters related to the College Partnership Laboratory Schools in Virginia. Public comment is an important consideration and valued input to the standing committee and the standing committee members. The standing committee will accept public comment on agenda items during our meeting. And we will accept public comment on non-agenda items at the conclusion of the business portion of our meeting. Given the time and cost to travel, again, and for the benefit of the public record and the public good, the standing committee welcomes and encourages the public to submit written comments to the committee as well as to participate in our process. At this time, we have no public comment, but we just wanted to reinforce that we do always welcome public comment and are always delighted when we have special guests. So at this point in the agenda, we'll now move to action items and discussion. The first item of consideration today is the review of the College Partnership Laboratory School application from James Madison University. The committee will hear from Dr. Brian Ziegelder and Dr. Larry Shiflett from as well as Dr. Armstrong. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Ziegelder and Dr. Shiflett to please come to the front. They are going to introduce themselves, followed by they will have any of the other individuals from the James Madison or Rockingham team that have joined introduce themselves. They will present their updated lab school application. They will then have the opportunity for any of their guests and staff to make further comments on their application. Then we will go to questions and answers and certainly hear from Dr. Armstrong. So I just kind of want to give you a runway of what to expect. So with that, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, standing committee members, members of the public, members in the audience. Thank you for having us today. We are really excited to be here. We have been through this several times, but as you'll hear the story of our latest application unfold, I think you'll understand how much we appreciate the process and how we've been through this since the beginning. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce some members of our team who are with us. So with us, we have Caitlin Reed. She's our Director of State Government Relations at James Madison University. Terry Combs is our Senior Director of Corporate and Foundations Relations. Jason McLean, Associate Vice President for Academic Resources. He is our money person, so we are very glad that he is behind this. And then on the meeting virtually, and thank you for allowing Jackie Lohr from Rockingham County Public Schools School Board attend the meeting virtually. As you know, the storm over the weekend impacted some areas in the Shenandoah Valley. And so we're thankful that you allowed her to be here today virtually. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to first start by saying you may have seen our application out there several times, and we began this process, as you probably recall, before the standing committee was formed. And so we had a lot of lessons learned through the process. And as the standing committee developed some really good procedures and policies and processes, they also developed support for the applicants. And that was very evident because I've attended several standing committee meetings just as a participant, and I've seen the support that you've provided applicants. And as an applicant, we really appreciate the support that you've provided. You really have been a partner in this process and have helped us get to a place where we feel that this has been a successful process. The most important part of that process was October 19th, and that's when we had a site visit. So Ms. Wadiska, Dr. Armstrong came to JMU. We met in Memorial Hall, and our dean, Mark Lesperance, who, by the way, I apologize, I didn't mention, Dr. Lesperance, he and I had a meeting scheduled today in DC. And so I was supposed to be at that meeting as well, but he told me to come here and he would be in DC, and that just seemed appropriate. So he sends his regards as well. And he expresses the exact same feelings I have about this process. So October 19th, we really went through the entire application as it was written up until that point. And we really appreciate all of the really good feedback that we received. It was the most important piece of the puzzle for us. And so we really appreciate the time that you spent with us that day. After that meeting, we went back and we actually opened up a blank copy of the lab school application and started from ground zero and went through the entire application and completely overhauled it and revised it. And that was based on the feedback that we got. So some of the content stayed the same. Our concept is the same. The purpose is the same mission. But we provided additional clarity on items based on the feedback that we got from that day. So you'll see in the updated application, you'll see how the instructional program is aligned to standards. One of the things that was mentioned prior is how our fused model, which you'll hear about this in a little bit from Dr. Shiflett, how that interdisciplinary offering of curriculum meets the standards in ways that don't normally meet standards in the traditional school model. We also provided clarity on special education, how students with disabilities would be served at the lab school very clearly. And then we updated what the lottery guidelines would be from the VDOE, just making sure that we're in compliance with federal and state regulations. What our facilities, not just from compliance, will look like, but what the facilities will look like. So we put pictures of what spaces we've carved out at Blue Ridge, JMU, and in Rockingham County. And then also, one of the things that we learned from the last time we presented here was leveraging the most important piece of this application, which is the pre-service connection to what we do best at JMU. As the second largest producer of teachers in the Commonwealth of the public universities, it was important for us to make sure that we flooded the lab school with pre-service teachers and pre-service professionals from other programs so that they could learn from the lab school, but then also add value to the lab school. So it's just another pair of hands in the classroom. And then, of course, the role of JMU and Blue Ridge faculty, what they would be doing at the lab school is included in this application. We have kind of worked together with the VDOE and the Board of Ed throughout this whole process and coming up with the ways that the lab school would be funded using the per pupil term, and then what our in-kind partnerships would look like. And we are very thankful to Blue Ridge Community College, to Rockingham County Public Schools, and to our central administrators at JMU for saying this is what we're willing to invest in time, resources, and those kinds of things in making this partnership work. And then, of course, sustainability. So I wanted to spend a lot of time going through what you will have seen in the application so that you know that those are the places where we've updated these things. So just a recap of our vision and mission. The vision of the lab school is to be an innovation hub. And so the essence of the lab school is career exploration and workforce development. And this is accomplished through interdisciplinary, problem-focused application of solving community needs, which leads to college and career readiness. One of the things that we see happening at the lab school is engaging deeply with industry partners. And we've already had industry partners contacting us saying, when is this going to happen? Because we are ready to hit the ground running. And so we're very pleased with that. You'll see in the application that industry partners will be an important part of the instructional program at our school. The mission of the lab school is to create spaces for students to be in high levels of engagement, applying real-world problem solving, so that we're thinking differently than traditional school model. So these are some of the career pathways that we've thought about now. And of course, as we continue to evolve and continue to have needs assessments and continue to look at the actuality of what the school will be, there will probably be more career pathways available. But these are the career pathways that we know, and talking with our colleagues across campus at JMU and at Blue Ridge Community College, are initial career pathways that leverage the strengths of both JMU and Blue Ridge. So we envision that students will engage in learning about education, because this comes from the College of Education, but also engaging with faculty from health professions, social services, government and public relations, and then leveraging the strengths of Blue Ridge Community College, aviation maintenance, automotive technology, business management, and information technology. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Shiflett to talk about where the lab school will happen.
Thank you for an opportunity to share. So in Rockingham County, we have 4 high schools, East Rockingham High, Broadway High, Spotswood High, and Turner Ashby High. And so we would focus on working in those spaces in those 4 high schools, as well as JMU Memorial Hall and Blue Ridge Community College. In year 1 of the application, we wanted to sort of have maybe a slow roll, if you will, starting with East Rock and Broadway, looking at working with a group of freshmen coming in that 9th grade year and identifying a target of about 50 students at each high school to get them into the lab school, get them introduced to what we're trying to accomplish, our mission, our vision. And then in each year after, we would add additional schools. We'd bring Spotswood and Turner Ashby the following year at the freshman level. And then we would bring in a new cohort at East Rock Broadway, as well as continue with their sophomore year. And then that would continue again into the 3rd year, when we would bring in, another fresh group of students as freshmen, but we'd also have students at East Rock and Broadway getting to that 3rd year, where they'll then have opportunities to make some decisions. Do they want to continue and do just traditional high school that some of their peers are doing, and that's totally acceptable? Would they like to go to Massanutten Technical Center and learn a particular trade or skill? Opportunities at Blue Ridge Community College or JMU for some dual enrollment. So This piece then really becomes, I think, really unique, the options that we're giving these students their juniors and senior year of high school. So we're really excited about what that would look like. And so as you can see the numbers, we get to that 5th year having approximately 600 students involved in this lab school from freshmen to seniors. And again, starting slow at first with one group of kids to kind of iron out some wrinkles, because this is about innovation. It's about new, and how do we do that and make it and have success. And again, talked about this JMU BRCC 11th and 12th grade, as well as MTC, what options are for those students when they get to that 3rd year. And hopefully, as we look at this curriculum and develop it, we'll be giving students lots of opportunities for some career exploration. And as Dr. Zugelder mentioned, that may morph over time as we work with various community stakeholders and what the needs are in our community, and where we need to help guide students and what opportunities may be available to them for their futures. Just a sample of what a day would look like for students coming in their freshman year, let's say this fall, at either Broadway or East Rockingham. They would have basically the first half of their school day they would be enrolled in courses in the lab school. And that freshman year would be English 9, which all students take, world geography. There would be health and PE and environmental science. And there would be an advisory time in there as well. And then in the afternoon, the students then would take their math course, other electives if they wanted to do a world language or a CTE course or a fine arts. So kids still have some opportunities to do things outside of the lab school, right? When we first were trying to create this innovative space, we wanted to make sure that we could target all students, and we just didn't want to focus on CTE only or fine arts only, but make it just so lots of students can participate, and trying, from the teacher's perspective, to build time for them to have collaborative planning on one of those days so that they can work on the interdisciplinary portion of this course. And then when they get to that junior and senior year, again, their mornings would be dedicated to either MTC if they would choose. They could look at doing some work at Blue Ridge Community College or JMU, and still have some afternoon back at their home school to continue with, if they want to do band 3, band 4, they want to do the theater, what other particular interests the students may have themselves moving forward. A sample of what we're thinking about just year one with our first group of students with, again, English, world geography, environmental science, health and PE, is my place in this world. So taking those 4 subject areas and the standards of learning that we're required to teach from the Department of Education, and using a problem-based approach to teach these specific skill sets. And we have teachers who are really excited about this. It's interesting when I talk at East Rockingham with our health and PE teacher, and we have a chance to share ideas about ways that she's going to incorporate health and PE into environmental science and world geography. And English kind of fits kind of everywhere. We read and write about subject areas. And so I think this is what's kind of really will be really unique for the freshmen and sophomores to experience learning in this capacity. We've seen this replicated in other places in some ways, so we're trying to borrow something. My son is a student at James Madison University in the College of Business, and they have Cobb 300 that they have to take, and that is a course, 4 distinct courses that are combined together, that students are learning application. It's not just, sitting in English and it's isolated. This is, or just over here is environmental science and it's isolated, but it's all coming together. And so I think that's one of the really exciting pieces for us, is to see this come to fruition and getting pre-service teachers into those spaces to see what learning can look like when it's done a little bit differently. It's again, an innovative approach. So this is what we're thinking with our first year coming into this. We'll have to obviously do some work in building curriculum, building projects, and making sure we have alignment with our standards. Rockingham County currently is doing the alternative assessment for world geography. We're actually in the process of doing that this year. So that also lends itself very well to this type of instructional programming. So I think we'll be able to meet those standards very efficiently. And then just this idea of internships, externships, community service, building this out, especially for those juniors and seniors, giving them opportunities to explore career pathways and what they may want to venture into beyond graduation. We currently have 2 work-based coordinators employed in Rockingham County Public Schools who currently help in some ways. This would be a bit more focused. And again, starting having those conversations with our freshmen and sophomore to get them ready for that junior and senior year. So, thank you.
One of the other things that we have in the application related to this particular piece is something new that we added, which is having a career coach. And this person would be a liaison housed at JMU to kind of help students at the high school connect to the industry partners, helping to build bridges between industry and knowing what skill sets they would need in the workforce. And so that's something that will help enhance this notion of experiential learning. Of course, innovative learning spaces, we are already looking at how that will be in the lab school. You'll see in the application, one of the things that we talk about is having technology where students who are participating in lab school at East Rockingham High School may be able to communicate with lab school students at Spotswood High School via technology during the day. We also have a space in Memorial Hall where we plan to have technology where those pre-service teachers and other folks who might not physically be able to be at the lab school that particular day can learn from this lab school experience where they could chime in or observe, kind of like a demonstration site to see what good teaching and learning looks like. And so we also don't see, your typical desks and rows, because during this half-day model where students will be attending this, there will be an English teacher of record, a world geography teacher of record, a health and PE teacher of record, and an environmental science teacher of record. But one of the things that we see happening is fluid and flexible grouping, where the English teacher may be working on some kind of project-based application that's related to the connection they're doing with industry, and they may be working with a small group of students while the other students are working with the environmental science teacher. So it might not necessarily look like your traditional model of from 8 to 8:50 you do English. From 9 to 9:30, you do, of course, 30 minutes is not enough, but 9 to 10, you're doing something else. So looking at ways to have fluid and flexible grouping. Like Dr. Shiflett mentioned, student voice and choice. The lab school is optional. So students who select to be in the lab school is one part of that voice and choice. But then once they get to 11th grade, they have a choice to say, lab school was really exciting. I want to continue doing this. And now I want to go to Blue Ridge Community College or Massanutten Tech or JMU and take courses there. Or they might say, I had a great time in lab school, but I think I'm going to go back to the traditional school model. And if that's something that they choose to do, that is fine as well. You can't really see this chart, but I extrapolated it from the application. This governance model is a shared governance model. It's between JMU, Blue Ridge, and Rockingham County Public Schools. We want lots of stakeholders at the table, so you can see those stakeholder committees are elevated all the way to the top, where they will be advising the executive director on matters that are, pertain to recruitment and retention of the students, admissions criteria, those kinds of things related to curriculum development. This is a little small here, but you'll see one thing we updated since the last time we shared this is the number of pre-service professionals who will be at the lab school has significantly increased, because one of the things that we knew is while JMU has a lot of pre-service professionals, this is a high school. And so our secondary and middle grades programs don't have as many numbers as our elementary and early childhood and special ed programs do. However, we believe that this kind of teaching and learning could benefit anyone. And so we do see that those who are in elementary education, who need practicum experiences, there's no reason why they cannot learn from this kind of innovation and have it be transferred to the age group that they would be teaching, and so on and so forth. You'll notice that the asterisks next to the numbers mean that those are in kind. The placements at the lab school are not charged to the lab school budget. Those are what JMU will be offering to the lab school. And there's a value of that universities have done for several years. When I was at the University of Central Florida, we developed a model, and I like to say people copied it from us, where we calculated the number of hours students spend in school times the national hourly rate for volunteers times the number of students. And that's how we get the value of that. And that's explained in the application as well. One thing that we also are very proud of is just the instructional team has a ratio of 1:16. The JMU faculty, the Blue Ridge faculty, the industry experts, the paraprofessionals, and the pre-service teachers are added value to that ratio. They are not included in that ratio. When we met with Blue Ridge Community College, they were very excited about this as well, where JMU and Blue Ridge faculty would leverage their expertise. So we see them as being leaders at the lab school, where they are leading curriculum development with the teachers, the instructional team there. They're providing professional learning opportunities for teachers. They're able to study and inform evidence-based practices that occur at the lab school and report on it and publish on it and spread the word about how lab schools can be of benefit, we hope, when we study this. The other thing about the faculty expertise is we want this to be reciprocal. We want to learn what works best in teaching and learning, and how can that inform how we continuously improve our programs as well. And so this is a joint partnership where we're all learning together. So the finance behind this is pretty simple. It's basically about half of the value of Rockingham's current ADM value. And because this is a half year or half day model, so 50% of the ADM approximately, it changes from year to year, especially in the first year. It's a little bit more as we get started, but as it works its way into years 3 through 5, it stables out at about $5,600 per student. The sustainability behind this is we are very grateful to Rockingham County Public Schools Board for committing to this model for 5 years. You'll see that letter in the application. And then also to JMU, we have talked at great lengths with all of our finance team within academic affairs, within finance at JMU on how to make this work. And we have actually scheduled weekly meetings. So our first weekly meeting happened right before the break. And we are picking these up again to plan for the startup funds and also for the years 1 through 5 funds. So transportation, meals, and services are all in kind by partners. So students who will go to Spotswood High School, for example, or East Rockingham High School in the first year, Rockingham County will ensure that the buses are provided for students to get to those particular sites. Meals will be provided by Rockingham County Public Schools. In 11th and 12th grade, we've already talked with our partners on how this will work to get students either at Blue Ridge or JMU. The good news is Rockingham already has a mechanism to get students to Massanutten Technical Center as kind of like the transportation hub. And then students can either go from there to Blue Ridge or they could go to JMU. And so that is indicated in the application as in-kind transportation. So we're not concerned about anybody getting to either JMU or Blue Ridge in 11th or 12th grades. And then of course, students with disabilities will be provided the appropriate transportation according to the guidelines that are laid out in our MOU, or that will be in our MOU with Rockingham County, and of course in compliance with federal and state guidelines. So during our startup year, we plan, and this is our startup year, by the way, 23-24, because we're hoping to open this in fall of 2024. But we've already started preparing our academic spaces. At Broadway High School, you'll notice that there's blueprints in the application where the actual lab school wing is set up for lab school students. We also have spaces carved out in Memorial Hall. We're very fortunate that we had a space in Memorial Hall that was owned by a different department on campus. And for those of you who have met my dean, he's really good at helping people think about other places where they might be wanting their physical spaces. And so we were able to reclaim that space in Memorial Hall, which is the former Harrisonburg High School, by the way. And it is the College of Education building. And so during that, or under that first floor, spaces have been renovated specifically to prepare for this and some other projects that are exciting at JMU. We definitely, like Dr. Shiflett said, plan to do extensive curriculum development and planning. By the end of the summer, we want our year one curriculum to be solid. We already have an idea of what that will look like in designing our outcomes. We have already met with some stakeholders internally who are not within the College of Education, but their expertise is in measurement and evaluation, who will be at the table in this design to help us think through what is it that we're trying to learn here and how can we design the most appropriate outcomes that benefit students in the long run. And then, of course, hiring our initial personnel and recruiting students. There's a lot of buzz already in Rockingham County because the teachers in Rockingham County have also been important in developing this application. As you saw in the application, a health and PE teacher wrote a good portion of the application based on how they align with standards at the lab school. And just a reminder, we've already invested about $1.7 million into the lab school in time, spaces, personnel. So we are committed and we are ready to get started. And that is all we have for our presentation. Not sure, are we going to do questions and answers first, or?
Why not, if we have other members of your team that are here that would like to address the application,
Sure.
I certainly want to recognize your school board chair. If she'd like to make comments on your application, and then any other guests you have. After that, then we would go to Dr. Armstrong, and then we can do questions from the committee. Okay. Good morning. Oh, we can't hear you yet. We can see you.
There we go.
Okay,
There we go.
I must have unmuted it twice. Can you hear me now?
We certainly can. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for allowing me to join you virtually today. I just wanted to be here to convey my support and the support of our board for this program. We're very excited about it, and we're really looking forward to working with JMU and maybe creating these wonderful opportunities for our students. So just thank you guys, and please consider letting us do this.
Thank you for.
Did you have any further questions?
No, thank you for your support and for taking the time to be part of the process and for your commitment with JMU over 5 years. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Dr.
then we
Ezekiel,
also
do you have
have-
other members that you want to invite up to the microphone?
Yes, anybody want to come to, you don't have to,
No, the JMU team doesn't have anything to add to Dr. Zugelder's presentation. We just thank the committee so much for your ongoing support and guidance. And we appreciate the opportunity to present today. Thank you.
I do want to point out Carrie Combs, who's in the audience. She has been at JMU for 12 years. She used to be the executive director of alumni relations at JMU, but now she's the senior director for corporate and foundation relations. And she is an important piece of this puzzle in helping us connect with industry. As you know, JMU has quite a presence with industry across the Commonwealth and nationally as well. And thanks to Carrie's passion and enthusiasm behind this, we see that really being a good fit. And, you know, we aren't allowed to use the word advancement, but she is a part of the advancement team, but looking at how that will be different through industry partnerships.
Thank you, Dr. Zugelder. Dr. Zugelder and Dr. Shiflett, gentlemen, would you like to take a seat and get comfortable? And we'll hear from Dr. at the rise here with us, and then Dr. Armstrong will present the findings of VDOE. Thank you, gentlemen.
Certainly. Madam Chair, committee members, thank you all for allowing me an opportunity to give a brief overview of our work with JMU. I typically reserve my well-rehearsed script remarks for the second review, but I can provide some highlights today for you all, as I know we have interfaced with JMU a good bit. And I want to first thank the team from JMU, and especially Dr. Shiflett. As you know, in my previous role, I know how much time this has taken for you. I know you also have a competing conference and a school board meeting tonight back in Rockingham. So I appreciate your support, and thanks for working with them on that, Ms. Lohr. A few things I would like to point out for JMU, as you can see in the attached summary, as well as the completed compliance report that is included in the agenda. We have found in the compliance report all elements and all of the elements of the application to be compliant at this time. I do want to highlight a few things. First, we appreciate JMU's effort to really clarify the character of the school, to show us in very clear terms what this instructional experience will look like for students. We acknowledge the multidisciplinary approach that is innovative. We acknowledge the fact that you all are looking at using time differently, that you are leveraging resources from JMU, not just in the pre-service teachers and staff, but also in your spaces on your campus as you partner with Rockingham County Public Schools. And you're responsive to market demand. I do want to point that out as well. As we work to approve lab school applications, you all are very attentive to the fact that demands in your local market will change when it comes to career and college pathways. You're going to be responsive to that in your application. A few things that JMU has also, and this has been I will point out, a two-way process. Our work with JMU, and Dr. Zugelder mentioned our site visit, I think has informed our process too. We're going to see on the agenda later that we have some amendments to our lab school application we're proposing for consideration. Some of that has come from the work that we've done through this application. You all have been responsive to our advice about the lottery guidelines. You all have also changed some of the language about our special education services and transportation, and some of the things that we're proposing as a result of the work that you all have done. So we appreciate that. But Ms. Wadiska, at this time, those are just some of the highlights that I have from where we are right now at this point in review with James Madison University. I'm happy to answer any other questions of the committee as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong, as always. At this time, I would open it to questions from the committee members. I'll go and see if Mr. Bailey has questions first. Questions or remarks?
Maybe just one observation. I just wanted to really sort of call out the transportation, the time and attention that you sort of put into that, just because I know that is just a huge barrier in terms of helping students be able to kind of access some of these opportunities. And maybe I think we talked a little bit about this last time too, but if you could just click one step deeper on just how you help students navigate. There's so many different options for them to think about, which is amazing. But how do you help them? I could imagine that it's be overwhelming for some students too. Can you just talk a little bit about how they would help navigate the pathways in your space?
You go first, or green means go, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's a great question. So in this first year, recruitment will be a big focus area for us, right? Trying to help students understand what our vision and mission is and helping them accomplish it. And then our school counselors will carry a pretty big load here in helping these students navigate. So they'll be at the table with the students. And then once they get into the lab school, so once they're a part of that freshman year, will be built in conversations. We want to provide opportunities for career explorations as we're working through problems and projects, and building in time for some of that work to help them navigate it. And again, we're very fortunate to have a career coach that we partner with Blue Ridge Community College at each of our 4 high schools. And so those folks, along with our counselors and our teachers, I think will help students navigate in making the choices. And sometimes, you bring up a good point. When you have too many choices, it makes things a little bit more challenging and difficult, right? If we just are typically for our students now, their options are basically, right, you just normal traditional high school, and then your junior year, you may choose to go to MTC, but now we've added a few more, a little more variety to their options. So we will have to make sure that we're giving them good information so that they can make the best choice for them. So it will be a bit of a burden for us to do that, but it's going to be very important that we do that, right? To help them understand. One of our sort of latest lingo in Rockingham is when our students graduate, we want them to either be employed, enrolled, or enlisted, right? That's our goal. So we want them to check one of those 3 boxes. And I think that language will also carry over into the lab school to say, what's your preference? Do you want to be employed right out of high school? That's great. Do you want to be enrolled and further your education? Or are you looking to be enlisted? And how can we help you check the right box for you? So does that help answer that question a little bit? Clear as mud, maybe?
One other thing, if I could just add as well, because it reminds me of our initial conversations with Blue Ridge Community College. At first, they were like, well, wait a minute, we cannot have you interfere with our dual enrollment processes. And we said, absolutely, we got it. So even though there will be a variety of pathways, some of them will be clear as into which is more desirable based on where they are at that point. So if they want dual enrollment, Blue Ridge would be the option. If they want to keep expanding on these careers they've explored that are particular to JMU, that would be an option that they couldn't do through dual enrollment. And then of course, Massanutten Tech has always been an option for them as well.
Mr. Bailey, any further questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Members of the committee? Mr. Hanson?
Maybe just a couple of follow-up questions on that. Just, I was one that actually changed my degree 3 times in college. So I know a lot of these high school kids are going to maybe want to get into the aviation or pivot, but just what type of things beyond the counseling are there for them in terms of the stickiness and even the curriculum for it to be meaningful and impactful and to keep them engaged maybe along that pathway. But 4 years is a long time for any of the 8 programs that you had up there, but maybe just a little bit of thoughts on.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So one of the benefits of helping students identify a career path or, what they want to do and work is connecting with the actual people in the industry who do the work. And so they'll be interacting with JMU professors. So if there's a JMU professor focused on social work, that might be something, I never thought about social work, because, it's really goes back to the role models and mentors that they have access to that they otherwise would not have access to. So this lab school creates an opportunity for them to have access to that. JMU, Blue Ridge, partners, the professors at both of those, but also the industry experts. So those who work at Sentara Hospital or those who work at Purdue Chicken, those who work at Merck, they will have the access to these industry partners and work with them to help with that choice.
Just one question too on your staffing chart, where there were 8 staff from JMU, or are those full-time designated individuals that are employees of the university that are going to be assigned to be teaching
Yes, so the way that we've worked that out in the budget is these are full-time professors, whether they're at JMU or Blue Ridge. And they will get an incentive to participate in the lab school. And so part of the budget is to buy out their time from what they otherwise would do to work with the lab school and helping with the teachers and curriculum development and professional development.
My last question is just on the 11th and 12th graders. I was a little unclear in terms of college credit that they would be accumulating. Is there, in terms of the dual enrollment, how much college credit can students earn during their 11th and 12th grade years?
So when we talked with Blue Ridge, it can be about 15 credit hours per year, but it probably won't be more than 12 to 14 credits depending on the number. But that's kind of what we're planning for.
Okay. Thank you very much. And just thank you for your proposal. It's just very helpful. Actually, just one last technical on John's question about transportation. Just I'm only maybe more familiar with the football stadium and other things. And what is the dynamics of the 4 high schools and the other locations? Are these 30-minute drives or 20-minute drives or 45-minute drives, or what
I
are
don't
the
think any
dynamics?
high school is more than 30 minutes.
No, Broadway would be our furthest high school to MTC, which is about 30 minutes. And then Ashby's close, it's 10 minutes. So they're a little bit, but nothing longer than 30 minutes. And then once we get to MTC, a trip, down the road to Blue Ridge would be about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And then JMU is just across the way. So, travel time is a good question, but it wouldn't be significant. And currently we already have a structure in place where we bring students to MTC every day and pick them up at around lunchtime every day. So that's in place. We just got to get that second leg of the journey squared away.
And if I may add, I'm already working with MTC to bring students to my farm on a regular basis, and it works out great. They travel, and Broadway High School, the farthest from MTC, actually loads their buses before school starts and send those kids. They get, as soon as they get them all on the bus, they take them to MTC, where they can then get on another bus, a transfer bus, and then actually those kids turn around and come right back to the Broadway area, and it works really, really well. It's a really great hub for getting kids moved around. So I think our transportation segment has really, we nailed it, and we've got that really under control.
Thank you very much. And just in the 5-year planning, it's always challenging when you're getting out of the gate like this and trying to get your plans in place. But just also going back to John's question on the 50 or 100 students the first year with 8 different programs and concentration, but also demand. Just obviously, depending on what students and, things could catch fire of, in terms of what students might want, but just in terms of your pliability or capability of pivoting kind of on an annual basis to have this supply and demand meet one another. Just any thoughts about how you might handle that?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Shiflett and team have been very innovative in thinking through this, which is why the first content areas that are addressed in the lab school are content areas that every 9th grader has to take. And so this is just a different way of taking those courses. And so in 9th and 10th grade, they'll still get that career exploration, but they won't be in that carved out pathway until 11th or 12th grade. So they will be recruited into the lab school with the content areas they otherwise would be getting. Do you want to add to that, or?
And I think that is a great question. I do believe there could be opportunities to, at least for that freshman and sophomore year, to increase numbers, right? We got creative with how we're working and maybe looking at the workforce a little bit differently in terms of the school and how much support we get from JMU and Blue Ridge. But I'm hoping that's a problem we have, that we have more than we want, not enough, right?
Thank you. And again, thank you for all of your great efforts in putting this together.
Thank you.
Dr. Moran?
Dr. Shiflett, it's great to see you, Jason. I wanted to just focus a little bit on the end in mind. One of the things that I really appreciate is that idea of that you went back and created kind of a blank slate to figure out what do we keep, what do we want to toss, what do we want to create from scratch, and what do we want to reimagine about this proposal. And it shows in your slides today. One of the things that I'm really interested in, Dr. Shiflett, knowing that Rockingham has been what I would call one of the leaders of innovation in school divisions in the state of Virginia, is that you have put some time and energy in figuring out how does project-based learning really work. One of the things that I think is going to be a challenge for lab schools is that it's not business as usual, whether it's curriculum or instruction. And most importantly, for me right now, thinking about it through an assessment lens, how do you see students demonstrating their progress in ways that may look different than traditional assessment, whether it's through credentialing around industry standards or creating portfolios? What kind of thinking has gone into that to date?
So one of the things I mentioned earlier, as far as looking for a verified credit for high school, we've moved to a performance assessment for world geography. So I think that will lend itself very nicely for our freshman year. And then thinking about this balanced approach, because we get into the sophomore year, these students still need to take biology, and that's a required SOL from the federal level. So making sure there's this balance. So we'll still see some what you may call traditional multiple choice types of assessments, but also then building in these performance assessments where they have an opportunity to apply what they know. And to we've worked as well in Rockingham to do the performance assessment for the writing SOL. So we have a little bit of experience with building those rubrics and looking at what is the performance task, what do we want them to accomplish. We've done some work with Jay McTighe and Associates with Understanding by Design. So to continue that work and so to find that balance between, what is it that students know, and then what can they do? What can they apply? And I think there's where, as Brian mentioned earlier as well, this flexibility of here's some dedicated time with this group of students and these teachers, and how do they go about using that time differently? And it may be unique from day to day, or as we're studying a particular topic, it may ebb and flow as much time that maybe they have with the PE teacher versus the English teacher. And what does that look like? So I think, and again, we want to get back to looking at those skills, right? 21st century skills people refer to often, but how do we make sure that we're addressing those? So it's not just all about content, but it's about skills and application. So trying to build a balanced approach. And I think that's a challenge, right? Because I think sometimes we find ourselves leaning one way or the other, and we don't get a good blend.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you from the lab committee members. Well, I first want to say that for JMU being the second largest producer of teachers in the Commonwealth, a flagship institution, a brand name institution, known in many households, much was expected of you. And in this application, you unequivocally delivered. So thank you. The lab application that you have presented to the committee represents a significant new opportunity for both students as well as aspiring teachers. And I'm just really delighted that you have stuck through the process, been patient, collaborative partners, and really brought us something innovative and exciting for students. So thank you. You have also helped us understand that the application was, how should I say this, clunky and elegant at elucidating the right information from our applicants to help us understand what would a day in the life look like. And we had that conversation when we came on the site visit. What would a day in the life look like for students going to lab school? Well, the old application never gave you a shot at answering that question. It asked you a long list of compliance questions, but never asked you, what does this really mean for students? and how does this look day to day? So I want to thank you also for the patience that you've exercised as we have literally stood up a process and you've helped us improve our application. So hearing no further questions from the committee and the report provided by Dr. Armstrong, I'm inclined to look for a motion from the committee for first and final approval of JMU's application for a college partnership lab committee.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Please note for the record, Mr. Bailey votes aye, chair votes aye. The motion is unanimous and your application is approved. You will now, on behalf of the committee, I will direct the staff to post the JMU application for the 10-day public comment period in accordance with the standing committee's procedures. Then compile any comments received for the review and those comments should be supplied to the State Board of Education for their consideration later this month. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to check in with, I think I'm going to give us like a 10-minute recess to reset real quick, and then we will take up Mountain Gateway. All right, so we will be back here at 5 past the hour. After our brief break. At this time, we are going to move to item C, which is first review of the College Partnership Laboratory School application from Mountain Gateway Community College. The committee will first hear from Mr. Alex Morrow from Mountain Gateway Community College. He is joined today by the fourth president of Mountain Gateway Community College, Mr. John Rainoni. And after we hear from the Mountain Gateway team, Mr. Morrow will introduce the other members of their team. Then, as per usual, we will hear from Dr. Armstrong. So at this time, Mr. Morrow, please join us. And I certainly want to welcome and thank your president for being here. I should, in terms of protocols, my apologies.
No.
I do have to take your president first, so please. Please come up to the podium and thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I just want to bring greetings. I told these folks that, because I tend to ramble, so I told these folks that I'd be 1 minute or so. I just wanted to thank everybody for this opportunity. I've had the pleasure of being president at Mountain Gateway for 10.5 years. We are 62 years old and as an institution, and yes, I am the fourth president. I want to thank Madam Chair and Dr. Armstrong for coming to visit us. I think I certainly hope that one thing that you noticed is the community atmosphere on campus. As a small rural college, we are an hour north of Roanoke, an hour and a half west of Charlottesville. I'll give you a sense, where we are in the mountains. Our college, in my time there, I've had the philosophy that our community college has to be the community's college. And partnerships is so critical for the success of not only the college, but of the community. I could be here for 30 minutes just talking about the partnerships that we've created and established. And at the top of that list is the partnerships with the 5 high schools, with their 5 school divisions. We're a small area, so our college's service area is 1,800 square miles, but fewer than 70,000 people. And I'd like to get to know every one of them because of that size. And a major factor in that is our relationships with our 5 school divisions, because that's where we have, that's the key. And just like any rural area, our goal is to keep our students in our community. And this will be another opportunity to do that. And I'd be happy to answer questions after the presentation, but I just really wanted to thank everybody. Thank Dr. Armstrong for all his work, and really thank the team that's here, because they did all the work. They certainly did all the work. I just reviewed things, but they did all the work. So thank you very much for inviting us here today.
Thank you for making the journey and for being here. Mr. Morrow?
Yes, so thank you to everybody. First off, before anything happens, members of the board, thank you for having us here. It means the world to me. This has been an interesting process. Members of the committee, thank you again. And to everybody who showed up to reinforce today, I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So real quick, I just want to introduce myself, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it off. I don't really use these, so I apologize.
Actually, Mr. Morrow, for the purpose of the public record, and so that folks who watch this,
Okay,
you will.
I shall
If
indeed.
you talk with this, it means that forever we will have
No, that's fine.
record of the amazing
They might-
application for everyone to witness.
They might have to turn their volume
So
down.
sorry.
No, it's
That-
okay.
That's just one of the technical glitches today. And before you begin, sir, would you like to introduce your team
I'm
members?
going to have them introduce themselves. So my name's Alex Morrow. I am the director of the Lab School Planning Grant at Mountain Gateway Community College. I have found true love in education and cyber at the same time. I come from a background, 20 years United States Army. I did time my entire 20 years as an infantryman, spent some time in the Congressional Security and Logistics section out of the Pentagon, and then I ended up at VMI, of all places. So that's where I taught military science, and I also assisted in the development of the NSA Cyber Defense Laboratory. So when this possibility was brought up, I fell in love with the idea. So now that you kind of know me, the first person I want to start with is Dr. Ben Worth.
Thank you, Alex. My name is Ben Worth. I'm the Academic Vice President at Mountain Gateway Community College. I've worked closely with the whole team here on this application. We'll let everyone else come up, and Tamara will go with you next.
Hi, I also want to say thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. My name is Tamara Lipscomb, and I am in charge of the Information Systems Technology program at the college. I also taught at one of our local high schools for a couple of years, and I see what this, oh gosh, I'm getting chills. I see what this amazing opportunity could do for those students. Again, you know, we live in a very small rural area. It's hard to bring some opportunities to our area, and this would be life-changing for these students. We already try to bring them in and include them as much as we can, but just from the bottom of my heart, this would be life-changing. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy our presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dwayne Ross. I'm Director of Secondary Instruction for Allegheny Highlands Public Schools. I've been in education for 30 plus years, plus I'm from Allegheny Highlands. So I went to school at the elementary schools, the high school, and then went to VMI and JMU. So I've been happy to hear all the presentations today, and we are very excited about this program for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, committee members, I'm Josh Kraft. I am the principal at Jackson River Technical Center. I'm actually the lowest level administrative representative on this team. I too, like Mr. Ross, am a product of the Allegheny Highlands school system and of Mountain Gateway Community College, formerly Dabney S. Lancaster Community College. And I will say that Mr. Ross and I represent our division superintendent, Kim Halterman. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tammy Scruggs Duncan. I bring a variety of organizations to you today from the Allegheny Highlands. My occupation, my day job is I run the Allegheny Highlands Arts Council, and we present the performing arts there in the community. I also sit on the Economic Development Corporation, which would like to bring a message to you about the impact that this can have for our community economically. We have it's a small, close-knit community whose population has been decreasing. It's decreased 30% in the last 20 years. The majority of those who didn't go on to the next life relocated to another place, and most of those were the young people. If we can create a workforce that has the skills that this program can create, it will not just enhance and support our existing industry, but it could give us an opportunity to bring in new industry that we need so desperately. I also sit on, I'm now for a little while longer, I'm the chair of the Mountain Gateway Local Board and their foundation, but I'm here today as a representative from the Allegheny Highlands School Board and would like to bring forward that our students, we have a median income in the Allegheny Highlands of around $30,000. We have a median age of around 48 to 49 years old. Our whole school system is on free and reduced lunch. So if we were able to retain these students in technology jobs, they could earn a wage where they could stay, not just stay in our community, but become homeowners and contributing leaders for the next generation. So I just ask you please to consider from a personal standpoint, if you want to address need and you want to have a major impact on an entire community, not including the lives of each of the students. Please consider us. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. So thank you for giving us the time. Today, we are going to discuss Mountain Gateway's Technical Education Center Lab School. It's been an interesting process, but I'm excited to tell you a little bit about it. So to kind of help everybody understand who we're partnering with, we've got Allegheny High School, Bath County High School, and we've got Rockbridge County High School, which I'll talk a little bit more about intensely because I actually went down there to teach for some time. Perry McClure High School in Buena Vista, and then James River. So real quick, before we continue this presentation, it's important for me to kind of put out there on the airwaves. I recently started a business, and this is going to make sense, okay? I started a business called Aurora Security. It's an LLC. Got a partner of mine who's still in the military. Anyway, it's a cybersecurity firm, okay? And it is based in Lexington. From what I understand, it's the only cybersecurity firm that's ever been in that city. And we're excited to start working with, new people, new clients, so on and so forth. So that being said, the reason why we decided to place it in Lexington is because Lexington needs it. Students need it. We can get big, we can offer those work-based opportunities for the students. So I needed you to know that because it's going to come back to fruition here. Okay, so industry partners where we currently stand. Virginia Military Institute has agreed to operate with us on both the cyber club level, right, as well as their NSA Cyber Defense Laboratory. So luckily I talked to Dr. Azab. As a matter of fact, Dr. Worth communicated as well with them, and we're in the process of developing a partnership where our students can operate with their students and get some real life experience. Amazon Web Services, that's a big one because a lot of our course outlines are focused on preparing students for cloud computing careers, okay? Cengage Group, and I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. I know we've got limited time. Cengage is a company that we've utilized their educational platform for years, and they have decided to give us a pretty great deal based on number of students coming down the line to get butts in seats. CompTIA, Aurora Security, I'll always jump in there. Washington and Lee University has become a partner, and then Carilion Rockbridge Community Hospital. So the goal of having these industry partners is not just to say, hey, we agree with what you're doing, right? It has a lot to do with, okay, so if you're building a workforce, if you're building an information technology workforce, what does that do for Carilion Rockbridge Community Hospital, right? There are several information technology positions that exist in that very organization or institution that require on-site work, right? It's not virtual stuff. So what we're aiming to do is provide that for Carilion, other companies that are out there, right, in the local vicinity, that also keeps these students from graduating high school and entering the poverty index or just straight out leaving, right? Leaving the city. Okay, moving forward. Wow, that is tiny. Okay, so introducing Mountain Gateway Technical Education Center. So let me talk to you a little bit about what that is. Okay, so I went to Rockbridge County High School not long ago, and I went on behalf of Aurora Security, but I was kind of a little spy while I was there, right? My goal was to find out what these kids or what these students from 10th to 12th grade actually plan on doing when they graduated from high school. The incredibly sad answer to that was either I have no idea or nothing, right? Just straight nothing. That's scary. That scares me, right? They don't understand what the world has to offer, and they don't understand what their capabilities are because they don't get what the difference is between information technology, computer science, database administration, because that sounds exciting, right? So once I started discussing, I actually got an opportunity to teach their information technology class. And when I went in there, they were astounded to find out that information technology has several different facets or directions that they can go in order to be successful. So let's say you try and teach a student, oh, here's Python programming. A lot of students are going to kind of decide to go get coffee instead of going to your course. But then there's some other stuff too, right? There's an offensive side, there's a defensive side. Me personally, I've always been on the offensive side of cyber. But what our program does is it offers students the ability to focus that drive, okay? So we're giving students the ability to go for cloud computing, right? Or cybersecurity and all different avenues, as well as something like help desk, right? Just preparing them for really any job in the information technology industry that they could possibly want to go into, instead of just saying IT, right? That's always driven me nuts. Okay. I cannot read that. Okay, so transformative. I'm going to have to kind of. Okay, so transformative educational experience. It is terribly important that the board understand and the committee understand that this is what we're looking at here is the development of a supplement to K through 12. Okay. This is not the same as Governor's School or dual enrollment. The goal of this program is not focused on these students obtaining a degree of any sort, right? Our focus is so that these students get to learn, train, prepare for, and obtain industry-leading certifications in information technology, whether that be Linux Plus for Linux administration, several more that we'll discuss throughout this. So when the student comes on, let's say 10th grade, because we're expecting 24 students in the first year, and then that will build over time, right? Those students are going to be preparing for at least one certification every year that they're in this program. So if they graduate from high school with, let's say they have 3 certifications, that's going to put them far ahead of their peers when they're on LinkedIn or something like that, right? Whereas most students will graduate high school and really not have any certifications at all. We offer them the ability to push past. Okay, collaborative. We are always going to be working with industry partners. We are in the process of developing a cyber club to actually be a part of this grant, where we'll have students meeting at least twice a week, right? On-site stuff where we can sit down together, develop different plans, build a computer together, understand the ideas behind ethical hacking, things of that nature. And we're also going to be taking them down to VMI because VMI has invited us to bring those students to them so that they can train with the cadets, which I think is a fantastic opportunity. So that being said, collaboration throughout, probably the most important thing about this program is the partnerships with industries and educational organizations, because there's going to be a lot of it. It's actually going to require everything. So let's talk about competition, because competition breeds excellence. It's amazing, right? I totally get it. So what is competitive about this program? It's not about getting into the program, okay? We're not gonna hold people back. What we want to do is I want the cyber club, right, to actually prepare and compete and capture the flag competitions that take place worldwide. Okay, I want them to go to our lab school and leave prepared, right? I want them to leave ready and having actually put those different tasks or things that they have learned to use in the real world. CTF competitions do that, okay? One thing that I have not really talked to the team about, so you may hear this for the first time, I apologize, but we have also identified different ways to utilize virtualization in order to have students who are going to conduct those operations, execute similar operations on site prior to. We'll discuss later. I don't want to make no sense. All right, so the students that take part in the Mountain Gateway Technical Education Center Lab School, the end state goal is to guarantee the students the opportunity to have those certifications. Again, it's important that I note, this is not, they're not, I mean, it's, yes, they're taking college courses, but the goal, the overwhelming goal here is not to get a degree. They'll begin their journey at the beginning of their sophomore year, as it says here in high school, and they will, the goal will be for them to continue all the way through to their senior year. Some of them, I expect, will take different pathways. Okay, so we're going to have those pathways for them. We have those 3 separate focuses, and it's really going to be dependent on how many students want to go this pathway / that. None of them are going to be hindered in the direction that they want to go. So it's important that the board understands that. All right, how is this different from traditional Virginia Governor's School program? Okay, so Mountain Gateway MG Tech Lab School places a specific emphasis on preparing students for careers in information technology. Okay, we are not obtaining a degree, right? That is not what the goal is. Yes, they'll have courses. Yes, they'll have credits. They can continue afterwards, but the goal is to get those kids out of the poverty index and into the workforce, and have them be paid what they deserve for the work they're capable of doing. Practical hands-on learning, unlike a traditional classroom setting, MG Tech Lab School prioritizes hands-on practical learning experiences. So it's not going to be book work. Okay. Yes, we're going to have some virtual platform stuff for these students to do, but the focus is going to be on, I mean, if we're hacking, if we're conducting ethical hacking, understanding computer crime, they're going to execute that in real time against virtual platforms. Okay. That is something that's very easy to develop, which I have already developed, and they will be able to actually access those, whether they're at their school or they're on site. Okay. Targeted for high school students, 10th through 12th grade, flexibility in learning environments. We're going to be working with on-site students and remote. So we'll be utilizing the high flex method of teaching. Good. Oh, thank you so much. All right. So we'll be operating on platforms like Canvas. So we'll be on Canvas. We use Cengage as of present. Test Out is another organization that we've been looking at, and they partner with CompTIA. So they're our partners as well. If we shift, we shift. If we don't, we don't. Cengage is fantastic. It's been a really good platform for us, and it makes us comfortable and our students. Specific focus on IT career pathways. That is not something you really expect in a college or a dual enrollment environment. We are really trying to get these kids. I don't mean to keep beating it like a dead horse, but we want them to graduate and be successful. Okay. Emphasis on future ready skills. Beyond certifications, Mountain Gateway Tech School cultivates essential future ready skills, including critical thinking, problem solving, and effective communication. So while they're there, yes, they will be writing papers. It will happen, right? Because in order for the instructor to understand the level of understanding of a topic, they need to produce, okay? So that will happen and that will supplement. Okay, so let's talk about the success pathway. I promise I'm trying my best to move fast. Cybersecurity focus. I felt like this was the most likely, I think this is what the students, yes.
You got to click. Yeah.
Oh, geez, man. Dude, I'm so sorry.
About that.
No, it's okay. All right, success pathway. All right, so student comes into the program, grade 10, initial MG Tech enrollment. They move into ITP 150, which is Python programming. I actually teach that at Mountain Gateway Technical Mountain Gateway Community College. That's in the fall. In the spring, they would do IT 152, intro to digital literacy, and then they move into a resulting certification. As you can see here, we are assuming, okay, that does not have to be this, but let's say they get PCAP certified. Right, that now they're moving into their 11th grade year with a Python certification in computer programming. Okay, that's it doesn't seem like much to individuals who are not in that industry, but to that industry, it is everything. Okay, certifications are legitimately everything. Okay, so moving into grade 11, the student can or will take ITN 260 network security, ITN 20 or a 101 intro to networking, which is essential, and then IT 195 certification exam preparation. And that takes us down to either Security Plus or Network Plus. I believe that this process could prepare those students for both. I think that can happen for some students, but I do not believe that that is something that should be expected, right? I want to focus on success and not so much on like how many can we cram in, because I think that could be, it'll be a force multiplier to only do one. Okay, so moving into grade 12, we can see in the fall, the student can or will take ITN 170 Linux System Administration, which I also teach at Mountain Gateway Community College, and ITN 261 Network Attacks and Computer Crime, which I also teach at Mountain Gateway Community College. It is amazing. I absolutely adore it, okay? In the spring, the student can or will take 261 continued because it's going to be a long course, starts out with a separate subject than it ends with. And then the possibilities are Pentest Plus and Linux Plus. So for those of you who don't understand what those two certifications are, Pentest Plus prepares a student or the certification or trainee, right, to actually attack client networks in an attempt to identify vulnerabilities within that network, okay? And then they have to be prepared to offer a report to high-level leadership within that organization that states, here's your vulnerabilities, and this is exactly how you need to fix it, and then follow on efforts. So Pentest Plus prepares them for that. Remember that when we talk a little bit more about the average salary in that area. Okay, also Linux Plus, same thing, Linux administration. Everything we do has Linux in the background, okay? Your TVs, camera that's up there on top of that TV, guarantee you could probably find Linux in it. So these students are gonna have a plethora of work. We just have to prepare them for that work, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on to day in the life. So this is a bit, and I saw JMUs and I kind of felt bad because I made this a little ridiculous in length. So morning session, virtual instruction from high school. They're getting ITP 150 from about 9 to 10. Times could obviously change. This is a generalization. Day begins with 1 hour virtual Python programming. I'll save you the reading. Break, transition, and collaboration, and then the rest of the day high school classes. Okay, so this is a virtual standpoint. It's important to note here that just because one student's virtual and one student is on site or on campus, it doesn't mean that they're getting an incredibly different experience. What we're utilizing in the educational software is the ability for these students to go into breakout rooms regardless of whether they're on site or if they're off site, right? They can get into collaboration rooms and conduct projects together. That's kind of the wonderful thing about information technology. I work for a company in Cincinnati right now, but I do it from my home office. These students will stay, I promise, right? I just have to have the ability to teach them. And if we can get this kind of program up and running, it'll happen. It'll be an absolute success. Okay, so day in the life on campus. It's important. I know Dr. Ranoni brought up to me earlier. Oh, yeah, sorry. Gee whiz. Dr. Ranoni brought up earlier to me transportation. It's incredibly important, and it was brought up a lot in our process of developing our application. So it's important that I hit this. Transportation, it has already been developed for all of our partnered schools. The students that utilize transportation or school given transportation to Mountain Gateway for the lab school purpose will be utilizing the exact same transportation process that is already in state for Governor's School. So transportation is already there. So that's good news. For those who are virtual, They will be attending virtual courses within their high schools with an adult, right? They might not have an information technology superhero, but they will have someone in that room or some faculty that's able to control the environment, understand maybe issues that are taking place, maybe a student's having trouble diagnosing an issue on their computer. They can help with that. But all of them will be available and able to take their courses. Okay, another good point. Okay. A lot of the students in our area are not crushing it financially, okay? Some of them don't have internet, right? Some of them don't have cell phones, and most, well, I'm gonna say most, probably don't have laptops or computers that are capable of what we're gonna be asking them to do. What they're gonna be doing is interesting, okay? It's gonna take them into a whole new world. And to do that, we are Mountain Gateway Community College will be issuing each lab school student a laptop. That laptop will follow them from their 10th grade or so, or whatever year they actually join, all the way through the end of the lab school. It's not something they're going to keep, because in order to lower the cost, right, we are going to recycle those systems, but they'll also be updated with the newest software. That's too easy. Okay. So it's important that you understand that even if the student goes home and they're conducting, they might not have internet, but they do have some paper to write or whatever it have be, they have something to do that with, and we're going to provide that for them. All right. Once the student gets to campus, they crush their course. Once they're done with their course, same thing. They jump on that governor school bus and they head on back to campus. They're going to be issued their, whatever it is, their instructor at Mountain Gateway needs them to be doing for the evening, homework, whatever have you. And then, you know, the next day goes on, life goes on. It's going to be a very easy process for these students. And I think it has a lot to do with the virtual aspect. I think we are probably going to see 75%, if not more, likely remain virtual. We love having students in front of our face, but I truly believe we can push the same data and you know, prepare these students the same way, be just as effective. All right, delivery method. So let's talk about what HyFlex is. I probably could have arranged these slides differently. Offers the ability of a student to attend synchronous classes either on site or virtually during the prescribed timeline. Students who attend virtually will attend the live classes from their high school location and be afforded the same opportunity for asking questions and advice as the students that are on campus. That is so important. That is one of the biggest fears of virtual classes. Well, okay, well, we're not going to be able to ask questions. Oh, they're going to focus more on the students that are on site. No, we're not. You're all going to be in breakout rooms. You're all going to be operating together. If you have a question about something, we're going to get with that breakout room. We're not just going to walk up to each student and help them and then leave everybody out. That's the idea behind this program and why it's so collaborative. As well, they will have the opportunity to war game and problem solve. It's a word I use for problem solving or working together as a team with each other in breakout rooms. A standard of communication will be paramount to the students' learning and ability to work as a team. Okay, teamwork is everything. Nobody will ever be successful without some form of teamwork. You have to do it, right? Even the highest level CEOs of SpaceX, right? They have to have a team. Breakout rooms we've already discussed, so I'll save you time on that. Boop. Okay, priority areas of topic interest. Cybersecurity has a goal of preparing students for employment in the realm of cyber, both offensive and defensive spectrum. So we're not just training students to protect something. We're training them to attack something as well. Because why? The best defense is a coordinated offense. Okay, that is going to prepare them for their certifications and for real life work. IT support operations, goal of preparing students for employment with various organizations able to render intermediate support in information technology, both by remote administration and telephonic assistance. AWS Cloud Computing has the goal of creating cloud architect And let's say a student wants to work for AWS or Microsoft. These are all wonderful avenues of approach. All right. Here we go. Okay, so typical income for information technology by county versus required annual income. I'll let you read over this, but you can see here that the required annual versus typical annual with a required one dependent. Federal poverty level for a family of 4 was 27,750 in 2022. And then that makes that 13,590 for an individual. Factors that affect individual income, education level, fact, skill sets, even more factual, economic development frequency, peaks and valleys, and then personality. Success is largely a choice and not something we fall into. That is a huge fact. So while these students are attending our lab school, that will be a focus. We will be assessing the student's ability to communicate, right? That's important. And it's also good for their SOL. All right, cybersecurity avenue. I promise this is almost over, and then we can discuss a little bit more in depth. CompTIA Security Plus, Linux Plus, Network Plus, and Pentest Plus. All of these are fantastic certifications that these students will have the ability to obtain. And then here down, you can see the job title, salary range in 2023, penetration tester, generally anywhere from $61,000 to $138,000 a year, which is fantastic. Especially if you're walking out of high school. There are a lot of opportunities in this. I apologize. Just trying to move quickly. Help desk authority. Salary range goes down a little bit, but it also offers a little bit more advancement than penetration tester. It's more difficult for a pen tester to actually transition to a leadership role than it is IT support. So those salary ranges will generally improve over time, while a pen tester will improve a little bit slower, but that's okay. And then let's move down to AWS Cloud Computing. Same thing, Security Plus, Linux Plus, Network Plus, Cloud. All of these certifications are absolutely essential. When I was preparing to retire, I didn't understand what the industry actually wanted. I was like, well, I've got a bachelor's degree in IT management. I've got a master's degree in cybersecurity. What the heck else could they actually want? And what I found going through LinkedIn, scared right at this point, was that they want certifications. They never asked me. They're never like, oh, what degree do you have? And I'm not putting down a degree, but I am identifying the fact that most organizations in the information technology industry preferred certifications in information technology. So I feel like I know it's not a feel, I know that if we give these students the ability to earn those certifications, they're going to come out on top. And this program is just going to continue year and year and year, being more successful over time. All right, that is a wrap. Here you go. Here's your computer. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. At this time, what I'm going to do is first go to questions from members of the committee.
Maybe just one.
Mr. Bailey? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry. I'd love for you talked a little bit about the Amazon credential, which is so important. And I know reading your application and talked about having, it sounded like a partnership with Amazon Web Services. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And is any of that connected to the Commonwealth HQ2 efforts with Amazon? And some of the work that's coming out of that?
Alex can talk more about the specifics of AWS, but the good news is, yes, the curriculum for Amazon Web Services and that content did come out of a partnership between starting with Northern Virginia Community College, but then including all of the Virginia Community College system. So we have the educational content in terms of the curriculum already built for providing AWS instruction. Alex can talk to you more about how that AWS content is delivered.
Absolutely.
But John, was that answering your question? So that partnership speaks to the development of the instructional materials for AWS instruction.
Thank you, Dr. Worth.
Thank you. I apologize, sir. I have a hard time hearing. It was kind of breaking up. So Amazon Web Services, that's one avenue of approach, but we can also look towards Microsoft Azure, stuff like that. AWS is a platform that allows really any user, preferably high scale administration, but I personally utilize it when I develop virtual machines. It allows us or the IT industry to create large scale virtualization. Okay. So if I want to have an Active Directory with 15 Windows machines, I can access AWS and create that, right? Yes, it does cost money, but it is also cost effective. It's something that I see being utilized outside of the actual education platform, most likely in about 12 to 24 months within at Mountain Gateway Community College. But as far as teaching, preparing these students to administer AWS machines and processes is imperative to them being successful, because they'll never have a cloud computing job without understanding that platform. There's no way. It's fantastic though. I hope that got to the point.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hanson, excuse me for just, Mr. Bailey, did you have any further questions, sir? Okay, Mr. Hanson.
Thank you very much. I
Sure.
just really appreciate this is such a critical area of need, and especially for your area. And just thank you for everybody's efforts in putting this together. I'm trying to also understand a little bit on the recruitment process, but also even this scalability of it, but even the marketing of it. I think the opportunities here are so important, and just looking at the demographic and the financial and poverty data and just the career pathways that are there. Just
Sure.
How are you going to be reaching out to students? And
So I'm glad you asked. That's a really good question. That's something that we've actually already started doing. Every school that we are partnered with is already tracking the development of this program. I know Rockbridge High School just because I'm close. My daughter actually attends there. I'm in there a lot, talking to these students and preparing them. So for instance, what we saw just bringing the lab school up was an increase of how many students versus in ITN 261? Went from, I think I had 4. Yeah. I think we've more than doubled the 261. And that's because we're starting to get these students to understand the different avenues of approach, because they're like, oh, if you think of IT and you think of some guy sitting there at a desk in the Pentagon with a bobblehead doll and a donut, it's not going to work out for most kids. Okay. So you have to feed them the truth, let them understand that it's not just what I'm good at. It might be something that you can be good at that, someone else could teach. And we found that ITN 261 elevated an enrollment very fast. And I expect the same will probably happen with the lab school courses. Now, when it comes, sorry, go ahead.
Cyber Patriot Summer Camp.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Holy cannolis. So Tamara Lipscomb, actually, if you want to talk about it, you can. But she actually, go ahead. I won't take your time. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this past summer, we launched our first Cyber Patriot Camp at our campus, which was a really good time for students to come in and not just, oh, I hear about cyber, what is it? They get to actually be hands-on. They learn the material during the week, and at the end of the week, they actually compete in one of those capture the flag moments. So what's cool about that is a student who, they didn't know Linux before they walked in. They can barely find their way around Windows. Suddenly now they're comfortable in Linux. They're comfortable competing against other students, learning together. Like, wow, I didn't know this could even happen on a computer. So that's one of our major avenues to market this, is through our our Cyber Patriot camps. We did just basic camp last summer. We hope to roll out basic again and maybe even advanced. We have career coaches in our high school who will also assist in bringing that marketing. We've got an amazing advising team who also goes out, does a lot of in-school marketing. Of course, Alex does, I do. We're just there all the time. We're close knit. I know we have 5 high schools, but we're always with them. I hope someone else can attest to that fact. We're always there and marketing in various different ways. We also have social media and paper, good old fashioned newspaper. So that helps.
Yep, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
No, she mentioned the career coach. That
Oh,
was my point.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, we've already have career coaches in the high school.
Wonderful. Thank you.
If I may, before we take any more questions, I would like to bring up something that I forgot. And it's probably among the most important, Pearson View Testing Center. Most students, you can learn online how to take a course, okay, or a test. And a lot of people will learn on their own. They'll pay tons of money and then try and figure it out and then fail their test a couple times, going somewhere else. What Mountain Gateway is doing with this grant too, is we are actually putting a Pearson View Testing Center on site. And I apologize for not bringing that up. The goal is to give them these courses and give them the opportunity to exam on site, right? So we're not saying, hey, here's how you do this. Go find somewhere that actually offers the exam. So that's very important for you to know. Go ahead with questions.
Dr. Moran, do you have any questions?
Yeah. This is such an interesting application. So let me just start by saying that I'm reminded by your energy of a principal in another state who's doing similar work.
Sure.
And one of the phrases that he uses, because he says, I'm working with kids that literally will not have a shot at
Right.
thriving in life if we don't do something extremely different than what we've
Precisely,
been
sure.
doing. But he says, my goal is to take kids from seat time to revenue generation by the time they leave high school.
Love that.
And I love that phrase. So one of the questions I have is, given that kids come in, they have a
Yes.
lot of different skills. How are you thinking about modifying the concept of time so that kids can move? If they need to move faster, they can move faster. If they need more time, you can
That's
do
a
that.
great question. So if they're amazing and they like could teach you what you're trying to teach them, what for them? I just had a student in Python like that. Kid was a superhero. So if a student has enrolled in MG Tech and we identify that they are just a straight up superhero, heavy performer, right? I actually find it's something that I think myself and the rest of the team would probably want to discuss a little bit more in depth. But I can see it happening. A student can enter a role of assisting their battle buddies. Does that make sense? I always found, as a matter of fact, I didn't become a good educator until I actually began educating, right? And I feel like that kind of comes in handy when it comes to hacking, because I never really got good at hacking either. I actually taught offensive security before I got my certification in offensive security. I think it would be a huge force multiplier for these students to get the opportunity to say, hey, I'm crushing it. Okay, I want you to work with this student and provide me a product, right? And explain to me on your level, not on the other student. I want to know from you what you gained from this experience. There's also the opportunity, like we discussed, this is a legitimate and not something coming off the cuff. But there are opportunities to get other certifications, right? You don't have to only get one. I recommend it because they are not easy. These certifications are very difficult, right? You have to be, you have to have your knowledge in order. But if there's a student that is absolutely maximum performer, I think the opportunity exists for them to take another certification. If you're gonna be ahead of your peers, be ahead of your peers. Go for it.
Sure. So being able to accelerate as well as to provide more time. to kids
Absolutely,
that they
yes,
need more.
100%.
That's one of the things I think you have to think about in a curriculum like this.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I'm really interested in is that I have a friend that's a computer programmer, and he said, one of the things I hated about math tests in college is that you either passed it or you failed it.
Sure.
But when you're building out technology skill sets,
Right.
it's kind of a runs, doesn't run model. And if
Sure.
it doesn't run, that you want to keep working to get better to make it run. And I love that. But when I think about the capture the flag, and I'm really interested in the competitive focus of that.
Yes.
Because I've watched kids in a capture the flag moment, probably about 3 months ago. And one of the things that struck me is that those kids did not want to leave what essentially is a test. They
Sure.
wanted to keep working the
Yes.
test all day long.
It's called
And
passion.
And it strikes me that one of the things that you have to be able to think about is, and we heard the prior group talk about this, is how do you look at that balanced approach, knowing that they're still going to have to take tests that look pretty traditional, but then participate in some things that are very non-traditional assessments of their skill sets.
Sure.
So talk a little bit about how you see that playing together, or maybe somebody else.
So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. When it comes to, do you have anything on the actual, like, let's say, how are they going to go from paper tests to?
Well, yeah, I can talk a little bit about what we already do, which seems very successful in my program. When we talk about capture the flag, we've been talking about like competitions against other entities, you know, other places, but we actually do that internally as well. So we'll do things to allow a student to compete against each other, to learn with each other. It's non-punitive, non-graded, just, you know, for fun. We take students who are falling behind, and we have an alert system. So we alert on those students. We mentor them, spend some time with those students, kind of giving them that supplemental material that they need. The term in like K through 12 differentiated learning. So we do that. We do differentiated learning with our students, even at the college level, where if a student is way ahead, here's other material. I always have videos and other material to give them, like, here, learn more, do this. We're also bringing on some testing software that will allow a student to take practice tests. Like, I'm sure you're familiar, like K through 12 Gmetrics. Okay. So now Gmetrics has partnered with Cisco, and there's new Cisco exams that have just come out fairly recently that will allow a student to start more entry level. So as they're preparing for like the Network Plus, they've gotten this entry level Cisco that gets them to Network Plus, that gets them to that CCNA. So it's more of a stepping approach than it was. But we always do that. We have something that is entry level, something a little more. And then, like I always like to say, the best way to really learn something is teach it to someone else. I just find that's the way, like, if you can sit down and actually teach it to someone else, you may learn even more than you knew. So I do take my stronger students and try to pair them with the weaker students, or the newer students. I hate to call them weaker. They just might not have the same experiences, and kind of pair them as we go along. And I see that very much happening in the lab school. So that's how I envision that to continue.
And I guess my last question, it's hard to enter a room today without someone bringing up AI.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wondering, in a time where curriculum, whether it's in engineering or in information technologies, you can see a curriculum become obsolete pretty quickly. What's your take on that? How does this curriculum stay active and dynamic versus becoming static?
So becoming static due to artificial intelligence in the industry?
Could be.
So I've talked to the team actually prior to today, and we've actually discussed the development of, or adding, artificial intelligence to the curriculum.
Okay.
Once we have a good, right, standardized course outline for artificial intelligence, some people have a different idea of what AI is than sometimes I think it actually is in the way it exists. I know it sounds silly, and I'm certainly not trying to insult anyone's intelligence. It's artificial intelligence. You're not going to see other courses becoming static. That's not realistic. What we'll actually end up seeing is artificial intelligence be utilized to create better curriculum outlines and more intensely hands-on. But I certainly don't see it becoming static. But what I do love the idea. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish.
Okay. What I do love the idea of is Mountain Gateway being able to provide students another fourth avenue of approach to success, being artificial intelligence, because I will tell you this, you will see AI advance dramatically over the next 10 years. So.
And I'll also add that our application has a description of our governance board
Yes,
for the lab
yes.
school. That governance board includes representation from our great partners in K-12. It includes representation from the college and importantly, representation from business and industry in the area. And so that group would also be there to review the curriculum, and they're making the decision to say, hey, cloud computing is no longer a thing. I don't know if that's happening anytime soon.
No,
But maybe we need to do something with, artificial intelligence and very good point. IT technology changes quickly. So that will be the function of that governing board, to review what are the current changes and trends and what adjustments do we need to make to our offerings.
And I would just also add that even though AI is definitely something that we're all learning about right now, and there's good and bad uses for AI, of course, I'd also like to say, we're sticking with industry certifications. So that is also kind of one of our big guiding factors.
Yeah.
So that's how our curriculum can not become stagnant. So like, for example, the Security Plus exam just went from the 601 to the 701. So now we look at what are the objectives and the learning outcomes from the 701 versus the 601, and we'll start following that. So we're always trying to stay on top of what those industry certifications prescribe a student to learn, so that we're not becoming stagnant. And just on a side note, I love to let my students check out AI and also let them realize it's not always correct. So let's learn from that too. Let's learn that if we put this prompt in that we think is going to give us all of the answers, those answers aren't always correct. Let's visualize that and see it so that students know, hey, okay, this is not how I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn about AI, but I'm not going to learn my material through AI. That makes sense.
Of course, just wanted to add, just trying to tie a few things together. Of course, you talked about counselors. I'm director for the counselors for the Allegheny Highlands, but we talk to all the different counselors in our region, and we all work together there. I'm also with our career and technical education department. So our whole area, our board works together with Mountain Gateway and everyone else, and we work through questions. AI, of course, is one of the things that's come up several times. We're trying to work with what the state has put out to figure out what's the best route for us to go there. And I know there's looking at avenues of possibly putting some AI classes together. So we're looking at that. Like I said, putting all those things together, we work as a cohesive group to get everything done. So.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Informative.
Well, first, I want to just paint a quick picture. Dr. Armstrong and I had an opportunity to go out and do a technical visit to your beautiful campus. And for those at home that might not be as familiar with where Mountain Gateway Community College is or what that community looks like, let me just paint a picture for you for a moment. You drive out all the way to JMU, down 81, and you're not even a fraction of the way through the state yet. And you want to continue down 81 a little longer, about 90 minutes or so, get off the interstate, and the entire drive, your car is going to be working on going up a mountain. And you're going to find new gears in your vehicle that you may or may not have known. You may realize that it might be time for an oil change. And your car is going to have an opportunity to stretch its legs, and your eyes are going to have an opportunity to see what is possibly one of the most beautiful drives that I've seen in Virginia in a very, very long time on the day that we went out there. And when you get off an exit, suddenly you get off this exit and there's this campus, like an educational oasis. It just appears literally out of the trees. And to go there is to understand how incredibly important the community college is in the community. And I think what we've heard today, and we can see even, is the intense collaboration, the familial, truly invested partners committed to this community. And what is so powerful about your application is not only are you affording students choice in their career, choice in their pathway. But what cannot be missed for our rural communities in the Commonwealth is choice of community. That too often, some of our high-tech jobs, you haven't been able to stay in your community of choice. And what was, really striking to me when I met with your faculty and you gave me the tour, first, your facilities are gorgeous. But the team that are there, including this team, and I want to point this out. If you look these folks up on LinkedIn, impressive resumes for all of the individuals that have come before us today. And certainly, with no exception, that would include yourself, Mr. Morrow. Exceptional individuals with exceptional backgrounds who have choice in their careers, but they've chosen to dedicate your talents to your community. And I think when we compare those two things up, that's magic. You have people who want to be there for the right reasons, who love that area, and who want to be able to stay. And as someone who grew up in a rural community myself, my mom, and people have heard me tell this story like a million times, so just bear with me here a minute. But my mom, she taught in a school where it was 7 different periods with 7 different grades. And she drove there every day just so those kids would have the opportunity to stay in their community and learn. And what you're doing here and what you're proposing and the seismic impact that this would have on home ownership, poverty, economic opportunity, stability, home stability, life stability in the community is tremendous. So I just want to thank you all for doing the reverse drive down to come and see us today and for your collaboration with one another. It is felt. So your questions, my questions have been answered and they are sufficiently answered based on our technical visit and what's contained in the application. One item I'm just going to raise for the record, just to kind of put out there, because it's a fun thing, is I'm very excited about your community together looking at a federal broadband program, which I know that we talked about when I was there, ACP, Affordable Connectivity Program. That's something where I know you have a lot of households that don't necessarily have access to the internet. They don't have a device. That's something where any eligible household in your community would benefit from that program. And because changes were made to that program, where anyone who's Pell eligible could qualify, I just think that might be a unique fit and it might help supplement your application in terms of its financial sustainability. So I know we brought that up before. I'm just going to kind of bring it up again because I think it's going to help with making sure maybe you don't have to quite recycle those devices in the same way. Because, I have teenagers too. And sometimes the best of intentions, those computers don't come back as well loved as we want them to be. So I have no further questions, but again, I want to thank you. All of you. So at this time, what I think I'm going to do is entertain a motion from the committee to approve first review of the Mountain Gateway Community College application for a college partnership lab school. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Bailey votes aye, the chair votes aye as well, and the motion is approved. So congratulations. At the next stage in the process, your application is going to be posted for public comment for 10 days. We will receive that comment at our next meeting, and you'll continue to dialogue with VDOE and our team. But thank you so much for being here, and absolutely applause is appropriate, given all the work that you have done today. Thank you and congratulations. All right. So on behalf of the committee, I direct the staff to post the Mountain Gateway application for a 10-day public comment period in accordance with the standing committee's procedures, then compile any comments received from the public for review by the standing committee when the application returns for second review in February. And the good news is our February meeting, if all goes well today, will be virtual. So you do not have to do that drive again in the winter.
Sure.
If we get snow, that is.
I'll be here 3 times before that.
Well, thank you again, and please take your leave. I know you've got a nice drive home, so thank you.
Thank you.
It is a pretty drive though.
It is a gorgeous
is a
drive. It is a
gorgeous
gorgeous drive. All right, at this time, we're going to move to item D, which is first and final review of the proposed revisions to the College Partnerships Lab Committee application.
Thank you.
Dr. Armstrong is going to present this item.
Madam Chair, committee members, thank you very much. And thank you to the Mountain Gateway team. We'll continue to work with them as we move toward our second review in February. We have worked to provide a revision to our LabScope application for your consideration. I will direct your attention to attachment D, and I do appreciate the feedback I received from committee members as well that have informed this revision. I do want to highlight a few items, and as we alluded to when we discussed the JMU application, many of these changes have been iterative based on the experience that we've had in the last 4 months as we work with our applicants. And to give a bit of background, the CPLS application is, at its inception for good reason, was a primarily compliance document. We know that there are certain elements that statute requires that we need to make sure that we are affirming as an agency as part of the application. We wanted to really make sure that we were balancing the compliance dimension of the application with making sure that the application also provided us with a glimpse of what the lab school was going to deliver. And you heard JMU mention the day in the life piece, and that is actually some of the language that we have added to this to really prompt additional clarity around what the instructional program is from the lab school. A few of the other pieces that you'll see in this revised application include some additional information about sustainability and funding. We have referenced the per pupil funding limit that we approved in a memo back in November. This committee approved. We have also referenced the lottery guidance or the lottery best practice, I believe is what it was formally titled, that this committee also approved in the past. We've referenced that directly in the application. We had found that among applicants, those were 2 problematic areas of understanding. We're hoping that's going to clarify that. We provided a template for budget that was recommended by our finance staff. And importantly, and this is not captured in the summary, but it is in the revised application, we have requested to receive a signed letter of support from the local school board of any participating K-12 division and superintendent when the application is submitted. We feel that is a prudent step to ensure that we have that support throughout the application process. Those are a few of the highlights. This has been a very iterative is the word I've used already, but this process has been very much that. We hope that this application and the corresponding rubric that Ms. Bremner, our innovation coordinator, has been working on will make this process even more efficient on behalf of our applicants and our agency as we see many applications I'll talk about in a moment coming through in the pipeline.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. Questions from members of the committee?
I don't.
Okay. From day one, the very first committee meeting we had, we talked about how we wanted to model innovation and apply the experience and really be, as we were learning, apply that knowledge to the work to improve the work. And I know that we've gone through a number of revisions of the application. I want to thank everyone that has been part of this process. I'm in particular want to recognize Dr. Moran for her contribution on this, as well as recognize the effort from our prior applicants, VCU, Mary Washington, Germanna, Mountain Gateway, and certainly James Madison University. Through those visits, we have gotten such insight into how to refine this application. And I want to thank them all for their collaboration to help improve the quality of the questions that are asked to elicit the right types of information. So hearing no further questions at this time, what I would propose is that we accept item D. Do we need a formal vote on this one? I don't think we do we? Actually, no, I take that back. We do need a formal vote on it.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve for first and final review, the proposed revisions to the college partnership lab school application?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair vote.
Aye.
Mr. Bailey votes aye, the chair votes aye, the motion carries and the item is approved. At this time, we'll move to item E, which is committee discussion of virtual meetings. Please continue, Dr. Armstrong.
Yes, ma'am. I will direct your attention to the attachment, which is the Board of Education policy on virtual meetings of committees established by law. And this does apply to the College Partnership Lab School Standing Committee. I'd like to really point out item number 7 in this policy, which I think lays out some of the requirements that we'll, as a committee, you all will need to consider as you deliberate whether or not to hold a virtual meeting. That states that any committee may not convene all virtual meetings more than the greater of either 2 meetings per calendar year or 25% of the meetings held each calendar year, rounded up to the next whole number, which I take it to mean we would not be able to have more than 3 total virtual meetings in any calendar year. It also goes on to state that a committee is not permitted to hold 2 or more all virtual meetings consecutively. So we also would not be able to, for example, if we were to hold a meeting virtually in February, we cannot do so in March and in April. We could do it in February and March, but not again in April. Okay, yes, I think I made that make sense. That is the salient point in that policy that I wanted to highlight for the committee.
First, Dr. Armstrong, I want to thank you, and I see Susan Williams is on as well. Ms. Williams, for your assistance in this item is much appreciated, as well as the collaboration with the committee members. For the benefit of the public, we will schedule, publicly post, and plan for the February meeting to be virtual. I think in particular, given the potential snowy month that we might have for some parts of Virginia, we want to be able to provide some flexibility for our guests. You probably saw that the number of guests we had travel to us today, which is wonderful. But I think for February, let's make those plans to be virtual. And then I will work with the committee members and the staff to put together a published schedule of when we will try to utilize virtual meetings on forthcoming meetings. But for at least the February one, we'll convert. So thank you very much, Ms. Williams, as well as Dr. Armstrong, for your collaboration on this item. Dr. Armstrong, you have the floor to continue as well. The next item is F, which is College Partnership Laboratory School Application Pipeline. This is one of our favorite reports to see, though, and it is the result of an awesome and excellent comment from Mr. Hansen at our very first meeting. I'll never forget. He said, wouldn't it be good and effective and helpful if we were able to forecast when the work might be coming in? And over time, much like the application itself, our forecasting, while we may not be meteorologists, our forecasting in our chart has gotten a little better. So, Dr. Armstrong.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Hansen, the work is here. I can say that, and I even have a few updates to this since it was posted on the agenda. What I've done is I've consolidated our grant spending update. And you can see the bottom 3 lines. There are a few changes to this pipeline chart that I'll just outline for you. First of all, this is alphabetical. In that first column, we have the superintendent's region following that, and we still include at least 1 applicant per region. I've also captured applicants, anyone who has really engaged with us in any way so far as a lab school applicant. So you can see that there are a few applicants included here. I'll give you an example. That's Tidewater Community College, who may have at one time applied for a planning grant, and that's still out there. It was never declined, it wasn't awarded, but it's still there. Just to give a picture for you all and for the public of really the interest that we've had in this initiative, number 1. So we've added every institution that has applied and their current status. You can see there the green means that step has taken place, and it goes all the way from approval of the planning grant over to the execution of the final contract. And down at the bottom, we have the total funds obligated or anticipated, the beginning fund balance and the current fund balance. And that includes the planning grant funding, startup funds, as well as our operational per pupil funding as well. The workflow right now is probably hitting, I assume it's going to hit its peak in probably the next 2 weeks. We have received 2 additional applications in the last week. We received Emory and Henry, which you can see there has already been marked green, and we received Piedmont, Virginia Community College. We received their application, I believe it was on Friday afternoon. So that will change from yellow to green as well on our chart. And we anticipate applications that will come through sooner rather than later from Eastern Shore, from Norfolk State. ODU, I have a call with this afternoon. They have 2 in progress and have actually applied for a planning grant on behalf of another school division. We have another recently awarded planning grant. I'll mention that's George Mason University in a partnership with Frederick County and Shenandoah counties. And we anticipate also submission from Lynchburg and Virginia Union and Roanoke, who have also reached out to me this morning as well. So we can check in on their status. But we know, and we have communicated with applicants that we had hoped to have applications in no later than February, and we expect an inundation of them for your consideration in the months ahead. Anything I can do to clarify anything on this chart, happy to do so for the committee.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. Any questions? Mr. Hanson?
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong. This is incredibly helpful. And just in terms of the planning grant, it looks like we maybe have funding available for 8 more or thereabouts.
We do. The challenge, Mr. Hanson, is that right now at this point in the process, it's tough to approve a planning grant today and then have the runway to have their application get approved by June 30th, just with the constraints we have. I have communicated with applicants that we had sunsetted the planning grants effective first of the year. We still have George Mason was approved, and we actually have 3 additional planning grants that are still in process. So we could see more get approved.
That maybe leads to my next question. And just in terms of the, looks like there may be more need in the startup funds or the operational funds. I know the 5 million and 20 million, 75 million numbers were statutorily set up, but I didn't know if there's flexibility, if there's carryover funds or unspent funds from category 1 or category 2 to use those so that they're put to good use if the way the pipeline's working.
Yes, sir. And that's on my to-do list to discuss with finance this week. I think some of there were statutory requirements initially when this grant fund was created, but I do believe there may be some flexibility in how we move across categories. So definitely going to get some clarification to maximize that as best we can.
Maybe one last question on the, the 3rd category, the operational funds. What is the runway for the use of most of these? Is it 3 years, 5 years?
So we have requested a 5-year budget, but they have 3 years to spend it. And that honestly was something that I had to get clarification on the last couple of months from our finance department. So they do have 3 years in which to use these grant funds.
Thank you. And just thank you again. This is incredibly helpful.
No problem.
This is excellent work.
It's going to be
And we love seeing it. So thank you for continuing to produce it. It's a big workload ahead. And I appreciate all the time, as you can just hear from that you and the team are spending, providing customized assistance to applicants and really meeting them where they're at.
Right. And I'll add, tomorrow I'll be traveling to Lynchburg to visit Central Virginia Community College they have submitted their application. We will be on site with Richard Bland at the end of this month as well. And I have been asked to come out to UVA to speak to them. So we have office hours today. I have office hours with ODU. We're making on-site visits, and we continue to just have regular email and phone communication with applicants. I think most of our higher ed folks are back from winter break now. So we're starting to get an uptick in the communication.
All right. So are there any items for discussion from the committee members?
The only thing that I'd like to be able to put on the radar, and by the way, one of the things I really appreciate with this, Andy, is seeing that every single superintendent's region is on the boards with 1 or more lab schools. So that's great. And we're going to be going over to VAS to talk to superintendents in a little bit. So this is a great piece to be able to share with them.
And Dr. Grant, I don't want to interrupt you. And I also want to add to it, because Mr. Hanson asked us at one point, I made calls to our HBCU applicants as well in the last month just to check on their status. They're very appreciative, and to my understanding, those are in progress as well. Just want to give you an update on that. So thank you.
Good, 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 good. One of the things that I'd love to be able to put in the parking lot is that seeing all of these lab school applications begin to blossom. Some are obviously farther along than others, but everybody seems to be moving the dial or moving the ball right now. But one of the things that I think about is when this is all said and done, how are we going to know that these lab schools in the sustainability model that we're trying to build out, how are we really going to be able to track the impact and the influence of these lab schools, whether it's at the level of influencing higher education and the way that they are developing pre-service teacher candidates to go into our schools, or the impact of a lab school that when there is a best practice that emerges, that it becomes something that has influence in a comprehensive high school or middle school or elementary school or K-12. And that's different than just doing an ongoing external evaluation of the proposals as they're being implemented, to looking at how does the state really look at the long-term investment and benefit of the money that we're putting into these lab schools. And I just want to put that in the parking lot. I think that's a state board discussion that's
Right.
well worth having.
And we've engaged in that discussion already and know that the work has been so consumed right now by technical assistance and application processing, but we will have schools online. We have one online right now. VCU Code RVA is in progress as we speak. And we know that many of these, if not all of the rest of our applicants, will be opening their doors this year in 2024. Part of the contracting process, we include some language about performance expectations, but you're right. We need to think about whether it's a program evaluation, a monitoring process, reporting requirements. What are those metrics that we look at the macro and micro levels, both as an initiative, lab schools period, and then what are we seeing as a return on investment from each lab school? And that is definitely well centered in the parking lot.
Thank you.
It might even have its own deck right now.
It may. Yep.
All right. Any further comment from members of the committee? Hearing none? Okay, there's no public comment on non-agenda items. Yeah, hearing no further items of business, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, and we will see you all February virtually.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong.